What is up, guys? Wraec is here with a new video, and today I want to talk about the Soul Gathering statue, which is the new update coming to Idlers, a new feature that enhances the Soul Perfection system, or is put on top of the Soul Perfection system. Not sure how you would say that. Chen showed it to us today, or gave us the news about it today on the Idlers discussion Discord that you can find in the settings of your game. That is basically all there is to know about it. I will give you a summary. And basically, the Soul Gathering statue is a new feature. You can sacrifice heroes in there that are awakened. So if you have an E-, an E tier, B tier, and even up to SS tier, you can sacrifice that in there. And you will get soul power, or progress towards soul power, according to the awakened tier of heroes. So the higher the awakened tier, the more soul power you get. And soul power can be distributed between your heroes, and it will enhance the awakened stats. So if, for example, you sacrificed enough heroes to have 1000 soul power, you could set 600 of this on your B tier Vesar, and then maybe a little bit to your supports as well. And that would enhance the awakened attributes. What are those? Let's check this out in game. The wonderful S-Starving Jara here to show you guys. The attributes are those, like the 8119 attack, the HP, and the speed. Those will be buffed by the soul power to a certain extent, and you can buff them and we will have higher stats then. And it's of course kind of nice, because higher stats on a hero, well, that's always kind of great. All of us are basically looking for the highest possible attack on our heroes, the highest possible stats on our heroes, and having a feature like this is kind of nice. Obviously, there is a little bit of a drawback. If you sacrifice your heroes in there, you will get soul power, but you won't really get any contract starry gems. Usually, if you got like a C tier, you could have sacrificed that and then got a bunch of contract starry that you could have used for more summons or other packs. Now you don't really get that. And that is kind of the question now. And, well, the question we can't really answer. We can discuss it a little bit, but we can't really answer it. I personally could imagine that it works out quite nice. Because, well, even for a free-to-play or a new player, you get some free summons, you get some hero from the free summons, and maybe instead of using it for contract starry all the time and doing more summons, you sacrifice it, you build up your account, you get a huge soul gathering statue, and now you have a lot of resources that you can distribute between your heroes. And the nice thing about it, and that was, by the way, already confirmed, it is free. So it is free to redistribute your resources, so you can. It's not like the all of the other mats, the tree mats and everything that we see, that you distribute to your hero and then you need some soul symbols or something like that to get them back. No, it's not needed. You just go in there, you set your soul power, you set, okay, it's 600 soul power to my Starving Jara. Starving Jara gets the buff to her stats. And when you say like, okay, now I don't want Starving Jara anymore, it is time for Star Expedition, we go and we use the LFA and we enhance his stats and give him some higher attack, because, well, he only has 6600. Then we can do that just for free, switch that stuff over and give Lord of Fear Aspen a higher attack. And what you need to know as well is there is a certain cap of soul gathering soul power that you can put on a hero, and that gap depends on the awakened tier of a hero. So the cap depends on it. So the higher the awakened tier of a hero, the more you can put on him, the higher you can enhance the stats. So for a B tier, I think it was about 1000 attack or something that you can add to them, which is quite substantial. It's like a 33% buff to the usual power that this hero has. So quite nice indeed. And I think we can see some pretty high stats with that. Keep in mind, those awakened attributes also multiply with your train. So if you have quite a substantial train stats from not only, of course, spending, but also from guild treasures and maybe from some of the game modes, because, well, we also have guild treasures, and we have the game mode depending treasures, the arcane jewelry, the ones that drop from Force War, from Starland Arena, all of those that you can basically drop in the game. Those will, of course, also be multiplied by your awakened attributes, and buffing them will be kind of nice. So that is something that I think is really cool. The question is, of course, is it worth it to go for for mainly free-to-play and low spenders. I imagine whales will just be like all over it and throw a lot of heroes in there, get some huge stats. I would probably think so. I think at least the Star Expedition people that want the highest numbers from their Aspen or whatever, they will probably throw something in there and get some huge stats on LFA, and we'll probably see some insane screenshots with, I don't know, 70, 80 million attack heroes. The free-to-play and low spenders, on the other hand, well, they don't have like 80 heroes or something on their account left that they can throw in there. So, well, it is another story. It is more of a long process, and the question is, will throwing C tiers or something in that Soul Gathering statue be worth it and give you more stats? That is something we'll have to see. But the question, of course, for you, could you imagine using that? Could you imagine like regularly throwing heroes in there and just getting the stat buff that you basically keep that forever? So could you imagine doing that? That is one of the questions. The next thing that came with the update, and that is also kind of interesting for me, they bring new stats for S tiers, which I found a bit confusing at first because, like, well, S tier stats. But the H wants to make S tiers more appealing to people. We can see the stats here. Ship Crusher increases the damage dealt to enemies with shield. Hunter's Focus of self-crit meets the requirement, increases all damage dealt. So we see some offensive stats. Usually at S tier, the only special stats there were the immunities. We didn't really see anything else. If we check that back, we can go into the Soul Temple, actually see all those modifiers. Here we have Stun Immunity, Freeze Immunity, Silence, Petrify, and so on. A lot of immunities, and at like A tier, you just see the stats with Holy Armor, which is just below those immunities here. So the immunities are the only stats that are currently required at S tier, and that has some problems, well, in terms of value. Part of it, of course, being that there are not too many buyers willing to spend that much to get an S tier. But you can see like an A- retires for 8,000, and most copies that sold in recent times here are around 26,000, so 3 times the amount. While we see this S tier here, and well, 60. I don't know why this guy spent 88,000 on that. 60,000, so it's 1.2 times the retiring value. You can see it's coming, the higher the awakened tier, basically, the closer it gets to the retiring value. For some copies at SSS tier, they even only sell below retiring value because there are no buyers. There is nobody interested in going for a copy of that tier because it's not that advantageous. Like, really, if you wanna, you get the 4th stat here at S tier, and really, other than that, the attack value, well, you can get that on an A+ copy or something. That's spent way less. So that's already possible. And I think DH noticed that there are a lot of S tiers on the auction house, and they are just not selling. They are staying there for quite a long time, and thereby want to do something about it. For myself, I have 3 S tiers. I have Starwing Jara, which I mainly want to taunt immunity on. I have ATD, and I have DGN. And for most of my other heroes, I went for A tier, sometimes even A-, because you get Giant Killer there, and that's the appeal of most of those hero copies. So yeah, that's the thing. Now with the new S tier Awaken sets, in my opinion, I think they will be more appealing to people. Especially the Hunter's Focus perk, which increases the all damage dealt depending on your crit, might be kind of interesting for people doing Star Expedition. Those people are hunting for the highest damage numbers, and they are going for rolls which enable them to do that. And in general, the normal stats, which we, for example, can see on my S model, like Armor Break, like Holy Damage, they are nice, but we can get Holy Damage from other sources. There are a lot of sources, in fact, for Holy Damage. We can get it from Star Spawns, we can get it from Train, there are artifacts, buffs, everything, something like that, that give us Holy Damage. While unique modifiers, we have no source of Giant Killer other than Awakening bonus stats. We have no source of Defier other than Awakening bonus stats. We will have no source of Hunter's Focus other than Awakening bonus stats, though it says it grants all damage dealt, so if that really just gives you an all damage dealt buff, it will be quite bad actually, because, well, we kind of have all damage dealt. If you look at my Train stats, there is quite a lot of it, so it would need to be quite a substantial amount, and by the way, 1 billion HP buff, nice. And even if it's a substantial amount, that would just work against me in a way, because, well, I have 34% here, And for Void Campaign, even a little bit more. There is another bit of all damage dealt somewhere here, 34.5% as well. So we have all damage dealt in the tree. If that would just be like 300% all damage dealt, well, then kind of my treasure buffs wouldn't bring me that much, because the effect of those buffs from Treasure Train that, well, I spent quite a lot for, would be kind of bad in that sense. So I don't think it really works like this. Probably more like Giant Killer as a unique modifier that multiplies with the rest of the other stats. And then it will be quite good. Then it will be quite substantial, and people will go for it over something like Holy Damage, over something like Armor Break, and will try to get that. So I think it will be very appealing. And people, well, I'm not sure if they're really going to buy an S tier for this, because, well, you get most of the power, as I said, if you reach an A-. And if you get that, well, it's kind of cool. And we already also established there aren't too many buyers at 50,000 Starry Gems plus. So that's kind of a thing. But in terms of value retention, I think it will be kind of interesting. I think there will be a few more people, at least, that will ask themselves the question, well, do I really want to buy that A+, or do I go one step higher, spend 20k more, get an S tier? And so it might raise the prices of S tiers a little bit, in my opinion. Do I really like it, though? I'm not the biggest fan of them restricting modifiers to an A tier, to B tier, or something like that. There are modifiers that are restricted to B tier, by the way. Some people forget about that. But CI offset and control precision, for example, don't exist below there. So there are also already modifiers that are restricted to that. But I think like Giant Killer is super impactful. And of course they want to make people spend by putting them at that position of being only available at A- or above. I just hope they don't make those new modifiers that impactful. I think they would be kind of alright. If, for example, Ship Crusher, which was the perk that deals damage, that you deal more damage against shields, just gave you 30-40% more damage against shields. That would be kind of right, because it only really works in PvP. Most enemies in PvE aren't shielded, and Hunter's Focus, well, it has to compete with the regular perks. We have 33% holy damage in there, which is a nice damage increase. Big part of the holy damage that is on the hero. So I think it would be alright if it was like 50% stronger probably than the holy damage buff. Somewhere along the lines of that, I think that would be quite alright. And something to aim for at S tier other than the immunities. I think it is still decent. I wouldn't really want to see that at the power level of GK. I think GK is a lot, and I wouldn't really want people to feel the requirement of going for an S tier just to clear content. And I think that's currently the case with A tiers, where people feel like, okay, I could clear way more if I had an A tier. I don't really think it's the same with an S tier, though. I don't think people, especially people that know the strength of an S tier, consider it that way. I for myself think that I could do well a bit more damage in Star Expedition with an S tier LFA. But I don't really feel the need to go for it instantly and say like, hey, if I don't get it, I can't clear it. Same for Void Campaign. I don't need to switch to a better copy of DTV despite mine not being great at all. I'm pretty sure if I put my stats, if I put my Destiny rank 4 with the Divine Power buffs and everything on this DTV, or for example on the SSM, that I could clear campaign, or at least clear a big part of campaign at the moment with a little bit more power, even the entire campaign. I'm pretty sure that this would work and that I don't require an S tier for that. So that being said, I don't judge it too much that they introduce those modifiers. I think Jesus will, though, because, well, if you have like 16, 17, 18, something like that, S tier heroes, and you now have to reroll them all because, well, in a lot of those you will actually want this new modifier. Well, that's kind of annoying, even with the current amount of hammers that we have. Yeah, that will take quite a bit. That being said, there were also some questions from DH Games that they had about this. First question from Chen was, do you guys think that you will use the Soul Gathering statue? Is that a feature that you consider that you might use instead of retiring the hero? Is it interesting for you? Please comment that down below. So I want to give him feedback on that. I will write him a message and tell him what you guys told me about it. And the other thing is, do you think that S tiers will now retain their value a little bit better and have a bit more value with those new modifiers? And personally, for me, do you think that it's alright that those modifiers are going to be added to S tier, or do you think it's too much? So please let me know about all of this in the comments. And with that, I wish you a great day, and we'll see us in the next one.